Hey guys, I'm Chris and I'm a health coach at Parsley's New York Center, and today I want to teach you a really great trick on how to build healthy habits into your life as we come into the new year. And I also want to talk about one of the biggest roadblocks I find working with members when they are building in their habits. So with all the health trends out there, it's kind of hard to pick which health habits we want to be focusing on. Sometimes it feels like we have to do all the things at once to really feel healthy or be healthy, quote unquote. And this can get us into some trouble when we're trying to build in our routines. So what happens is we end up trying to pull all the levers at once, right? So we're working on exercise and diet and sleep, and it can feel really overwhelming and just like we're doing too much. And then those habits are really hard to keep up with. So one of the biggest pitfalls I find when working with members on building healthy, sustainable habits is this all or nothing trap, right? This black and white thinking of, I have to do exercise 4 or 5 times a week, I've got to really follow this specific diet plan, I've got to get my sleep routine down all at once. And if we're not doing all that, then we're not being healthy or we feel like giving up. Sometimes when we take on too much, we might be overdoing it, right? We might end up maybe over-exercising or over-restricting in the diet and kind of doing the opposite of what we want, which is to feel really good and healthy. So how do we implement change that really sticks? So one thing I really like to work with my members on is getting simple, starting from a simple place and building from there. And one technique I use very often is habit stacking. So habit stacking is essentially linking together smaller behaviors until we build out a consistent routine. And to do that, we use a physical or a mental trigger that we already do in day-to-day life to add on to and to add a new behavior to. So habit stacking allows us to focus on the smaller wins, and this can be really inspiring. So instead of feeling like we have this huge goal of all those things to get done and to feel like we're successful, this is a way that we can feel motivated and inspired to keep building from smaller to bigger. Well, let's chat for a minute about the science behind habit stacking and why this works so well. So as we age, our brain does this thing called synaptic pruning. So synapses are the connections between neurons in your brain. They help neurons to communicate. And so what happens is synaptic pruning allows the brain to focus more on the synapses or connections we're making with behaviors that are happening more frequently, and then prune away those synapses that we might not use that often. And the more frequently those connections are being made, the better the brain gets at firing away faster and more efficiently to complete that habit. And synaptic pruning is happening with every habit we complete day to day. So let's use an example to really understand how this works. So a morning routine. This is something that in the wellness world you hear a lot about. It's a really great way to start off your day. Maybe you want to build in some mindfulness or some movement to really get your day started and feel good moving forward. But mornings are crazy and hectic, and we already have so much stuff going on. So it can feel really unattainable to fit in anything else. And so what we want to do is really simplify. So let's say we want to build in a mindfulness practice as well as some meditation. So we're thinking, I want to do some gratitude journaling, and I also want to fit in some guided meditation. So what we would do is we're going to separate out these steps, these smaller goals, into the gratitude and the meditation, right? And we'll start with gratitude journaling, for instance. Okay, so if we want to get in that gratitude journaling, we're going to choose a trigger that we're already doing. So let's say turning off your morning alarm in the morning. So you get up, your alarm goes off, you physically switch that alarm off from your phone or your alarm clock. That's going to trigger you to tell yourself for 30 seconds, I'm going to think of 3 things that I'm grateful for. Next, we want to build in our meditation, right? So we pick another trigger. Let's say this is going to be when we finish our morning cup of coffee. When we put that coffee into the sink, we're going to sit down for 1 minute and do a guided meditation. And the great thing about this stacking is you can build out from there. So 1 minute is a great way to start with meditation. And as you get more and more comfortable, you can add 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and go from there. And essentially what we're doing is building like a little habit staircase, and we're getting to our bigger goals by getting in these smaller steps after each of these triggers. Just one thing to consider as well. So while habits and consistency obviously are all super helpful to feeling healthy and well day to day, I also always recommend having a little bit of flexibility or feeling comfortable in that gray area when things are maybe a little hectic in your life or you can't get to those habits that you're usually used to, because this really does decrease some stress and it helps us to continue with these habits if we can focus on the specific habits that serve us in that moment. So let's say you're traveling for work and things are really crazy, right? And maybe the food choices you normally make are really tough to do while away, or your sleep routine is a little bit off, right? Ask yourself, take a mindful moment and ask yourself, what are some things, maybe one thing or two things that I can really focus on during this stressful moment that will serve me and does feel good? So maybe that's just staying hydrated throughout the day, or waking up and doing a quick 5-minute daily stretch routine. This way, when you get back to your regular schedule, you don't feel like it's all piling up. You've still committed to some things that work for you and had a little flexibility so that you can kind of build those other ones back in quicker. All right, guys, so that is my tips on habits, habit stacking, and how to build in a good, consistent routine. I hope it was helpful, and maybe you feel inspired to start stacking a couple small habits and seeing how it goes.